Hey everybody, I wanted to put together a little video to kind of help you get some background, to help you get started with the workplace memo assessment. This is one of the assignments you're going to be doing this week in week 3. Some of you have already finished it, some of you are working on it now, and I know some people have asked some questions about this. It's kind of brought up some confusion, so I wanted to just take a couple minutes just to kind of see if I can help you kind of better understand how to start with this. So the workplace memo is based on this PowerPoint here, municipal solid waste generation, and that's something you see right here. What you're going to do is, as you develop your memo in Word, you're going to use data from this presentation, okay? So you can go through this, you see a bunch of different charts and graphs, and you're going to be drawing data, drawing information specifically from tables like this one here, for your memo. So we have the directions, and then there's also this nice little video here that can help walk you through it as well, so I highly recommend using that. But these are the directions. And so it gives you some background on what you're supposed to be doing with this, and then right in step 3 it gets right into the specifics. What do you actually need to do to finish this assessment? So there's all these points here, A to J. These are the requirements. These are the things you need to do in order to be able to get the credit, the full credit for this assessment. So for instance, you need an introduction, to, from, date, subject. You need a title, you need to make sure you have margins that are the right size, you need to make sure that things, if it says format something like the title properly in a certain way, which it does, all caps, 14-point font, Arial font style, color blue I think it is, you need to do that. You also need to add at least one bulleted list and also a table, as well as a header and a footer. And so some of you might think, well gosh, that's a lot, and as I said before in one of my videos, this exercise does give you a little leeway. There are requirements you have to meet, the standards you have to have, but you have some creativity as well, where you can kind of present this data in certain ways, as long as you have, for instance, the list and the table. But that can be confusing because you're saying, well, gosh, we're doing these other assessments, these other assignments where it walks us step by step through how to do every single thing. Now you're telling us we have to kind of figure out some of this on our own. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. That's what we want you to do. So what do we do? How do we start with this? Well, let me show you a couple things that might be helpful. In Word, in fact, I'm going to make this smaller just because I'm not sure if the video I'm doing right now is going to capture everything up here that I want. Easiest thing to do is just start to, from, date, and subject, all right? Very basic. You can tab over. I'd recommend doing that maybe twice. But everything you need is right there in front of you. So it says, for instance, insert a table, insert a header and a footer. It seems to make sense that if you need to insert something, you go to that insert tab, and boom, lo and behold, you've got a table option right there, and you've got a header and footer option right there, as well as page numbering, and it does require page numbering. All these things are right there. Now it's up to you to determine what works best. Now, some things, for instance, the footer, it does say this is the footer we want. INFT 124 environmental memo aligned left. All right, well, that's pretty easy to do though. I'm just going to copy and paste this just to make it, just for sake of time, to be honest. But I'm going to go into my footer right there, blank, that's left, on the left, and I'm going to go environmental memo or environment memo and close the header. You can do the same thing with your page numbering, because it asks for that, and a specific header. I think it actually asks for the page numbering in the header if I recall correctly. So you're going to put your information down here as you start to get it from, again, this PDF. So you're going to draw some of this data. Everyone's is going to be a little different, so don't worry about it having to adhere to a certain standard in terms of that. Everyone's is going to look a little different there. So you're going to have 1-inch margins. You're going to have a memo title. It makes sense that the memo title says something like, the Municipal Solid Waste Report or something like that. But it's going to be in 14-point font, Arial style, bold, and blue. All right? And then it asks for things like it needs to be formatted properly, single space between the paragraphs. So as you start typing things out, you're going to want to make sure that it's single space, but you have that space between paragraphs as well. Well, how do you do some of these other things, like the bulleted list, for instance, or the table? Well, those are pretty easy as well. A table, and again, this is not how yours is going to look. I'm kind of tossing this together for your sake, folks. The table is right over here under the Insert tab. You click table, and the nicest thing about this is that it allows you to draw the size table you want. 4 over, 4 down is the minimum. So I'm going to click on that, and boom, you got a table. And you can change this table. You can extend something like that. And as you start typing, it'll probably extend there for you anyway. But also the same thing goes here. If you want to fit everything, kind of move around the columns, do this kind of stuff a little bit. What I would recommend, though, is once you start putting your data in there, make it look a little nice, pretty the thing up a little bit. So the nice thing about Word is it makes it really, really easy. So you notice up here on my ribbon, this is how it looks until I click into my table, and lo and behold, we have table tools that pop up. You can choose the design. And I would recommend choosing some sort of design that kind of makes your table stand out a little bit. It doesn't have to be anything really elaborate, but change it around, give it some color, something like that. And then you're going to populate your data, make sure you have that all done. And you also want to have some sort of bulleted list. So of course, obviously, this is not how you're going to develop yours. Probably you're going to have some paragraphs there and flesh it out a little bit, obviously. But then if you want to get something like a bulleted list, those are right up here under the paragraph family right there, bullets. And right next to it is numbers. And you can frankly do either one, doesn't really matter to me. But again, as long as you have one bulleted list, that's really what you want. Now, you can choose any one of these. It doesn't really matter too much to me. And as you start to write things out, you'll have that bulleted list appear. You're going to do other things too, like you need to have some of it italicized. That's again up to you. But you see how within like 5 minutes time, I've been able to, at the very least, toss some of this information into a blank Word document. It's all there for you. It's right up here. So the more you learn about Word in the lectures, the more that you kind of start working through some of these assignments on your own, the better prepared you're going to be to do things like this. Because while there are requirements that you need to meet, there is that leeway. There is that ability to be creative, if you will, and that can be daunting to some people. So don't worry about it too much. Get the specifics in there, all the headers, footers, the margins, all that kind of stuff. Again, you really want to make sure that you're following those things very closely, but then have a little fun with it. Try to make it yours, because that's really what you're going to be doing in Word on the job, is you're going to try to make something that's eye-popping, something that's different, but also has all the data that you really need. Now, these specifics are also important because not only does this file have the directions, but also the rubric. So I say these things also because that's how I grade this assignment. I need to make sure that you have all of these elements. So if your grade's a little lower and you say, well, gosh, why is that? I might come back and say, well, it's because you are missing these points that were in the instructions. So make sure, as is the case with all of our assignments, follow the instructions to the letter. Don't jump over something or forget something and say, well, it's not a big deal. I'm supposed to look at all the details. So do those things. Hopefully this helps to kind of set the scene for you, or to kind of get you prepared to jump into this assignment. Don't worry, you're going to be fine. Let me know, though, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns. I'm happy to help you out in any way I can. Thanks, folks.